The heartland of America, a place where the land stretches out in a vast, unending expanse, and the sky seems to go on forever. This is where the soul of the country resides, in the quiet, unassuming beauty of the Midwest, where cornfields stretched as far as the eye could see. The golden waves of corn swayed gently in the breeze, a testament to the hard work and dedication of the farmers who tended to them. Each row, meticulously planted and cared for, represented the lifeblood of the community, where the air was thick with the scent of freshly cut hay and the laughter of children playing. This was Heartland, a place where the simple joys of life were cherished and the bonds of family and community were strong. Summers were filled with the sounds of nature and the carefree shouts of kids enjoying their freedom. A town where life went by at its own pace, unhurried and peaceful. The main street, with its quaint shops and minimal traffic, was a place where people took the time to stop and chat, to catch up on each other's lives. There was no rush, no hurry, just a gentle rhythm that everyone followed. Heartland was a place where everyone knew their neighbours. Doors were left unlocked. Trust and camaraderie were the cornerstones of this community. People looked out for one another, lending a hand whenever needed. It was a place where you felt safe, where you belonged. People greeted each other with a smile and a nod. These small gestures of kindness and recognition were the glue that held the community together. It was a place where everyone felt seen and valued. It was the kind of town where kids could roam free. They played in the streets, rode their bikes, and explored the world around them without fear. The sense of security and freedom was palpable, a rare treasure in today's world. They could ride their bikes until the streetlights flickered on. It felt safe. It felt like home. The soft glow of the streetlights signaled the end of another perfect day, a day filled with adventure and laughter. Sundays were for church picnics and potlucks. These gatherings were more than just a chance to share a meal. They were a celebration of community and togetherness. Families came together, bringing their favorite dishes, and spent the day enjoying each other's company. The scent of apple pie and fried chicken filled the air. These familiar, comforting aromas were a reminder of the love and care that went into every dish. It was a feast for the senses, a true taste of home. Kids chased fireflies as the sun dipped below the horizon. The magical glow of the fireflies added a touch of enchantment to the evening, creating memories that would last a lifetime. It was a simpler time, a time of innocence, a time when the world seemed a little bit kinder, a little bit gentler. The days were long and the nights were filled with the sounds of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl. But that innocence was about to be shattered. The peaceful facade of Heartland was hiding a growing darkness, one that threatened to disrupt the tranquility that everyone had come to cherish. A darkness was creeping in from the edges, threatening to consume the town's heart. It was a subtle, insidious presence that slowly began to make itself known, casting long shadows over the once bright landscape. And it all started with the disappearance of a young girl. Her absence sent shockwaves through the community, shattering the sense of safety and security that had once been taken for granted. The search for her would uncover secrets that had long been buried, changing Heartland forever.
I loved to read, my nose always stuck in a book. I dreamed of faraway lands and magical adventures.
Emily Walker was the epitome of Heartland's spirit. She was a bright, cheerful girl of 10 with a smile that could light up a room. One warm summer evening, Emily vanished. She was last seen playing in the park near her home, her laughter echoing through the air. But as the sun began to set, the laughter ceased. Emily was gone. Panic set in. Search parties were formed. Volunteers combed through the cornfields and woods, their voices hoarse from calling Emily's name. But there was no sign of her, no trace. Days turned into nights. Hope began to dwindle. The fear in Heartland was palpable. It hung in the air like a thick fog. The town held its breath, waiting, praying for a miracle. The discovery sent shockwaves through Heartland. It was a quiet town where everyone knew each other, and nothing much ever happened. But that all changed in an instant. A farmer out checking his fields stumbled upon a sight that made his blood run cold. He had seen many things in his life, but nothing could have prepared him for this. It was Emily. Her lifeless body lay discarded in the cornfield, her once vibrant eyes staring vacantly at the sky. Emily was well known in the town, a young woman full of life and dreams. Her tragic end was a stark contrast to the bright future everyone had envisioned for her. The news spread like wildfire. In a matter of hours, everyone in Heartland knew about the gruesome discovery. Conversations were hushed, and the usual gossip was replaced by fear and speculation. Grief and terror gripped the town. Heartland had never experienced such a brutal crime, and the shock was palpable. People gathered in small groups, comforting each other, trying to make sense of the horror that had descended upon them. The image of Emily's lifeless body, a cruel mockery of her former innocence, was seared into everyone's minds. A makeshift memorial sprang up at the edge of the cornfield with flowers, candles, and heartfelt notes from those who loved her. The peace that had once defined Heartland was gone, replaced by a chilling fear. The streets, once bustling with activity, were now eerily quiet. The sense of security that the townspeople had always taken for granted was shattered.
The police launched a full-scale investigation. Officers combed through the cornfield, looking for any clues that might lead them to the killer. They interviewed everyone who might have seen or heard something unusual, but the killer had vanished without a trace. Despite their best efforts, the police found no leads, no evidence that could point them in the right direction. It was as if the murderer had simply disappeared into thin air. The townsfolk were left to grapple with the horror that had befallen them. They locked their doors and windows, something they had never felt the need to do before. The sense of community that had always been Heartland's strength was now overshadowed by suspicion and fear. The boogeyman wasn't a figment of their imagination anymore. He was real, and he had taken one of their own. The fear of the unknown gripped the town, making every shadow seem menacing. He was real. He lived among them. The thought that the killer could be someone they knew, someone they had trusted, was almost too much to bear. Every glance, every whisper was filled with suspicion.
Fear became a constant companion. It was there in the eyes of the townspeople, in the way they moved, in the way they spoke. The once tight-knit community was now fractured by an invisible enemy. Parents kept their children close, their eyes darting nervously at every shadow. The playgrounds, once filled with the laughter of children, were now deserted. The joy that had once defined Heartland was replaced by an unsettling silence. The laughter of children, once a familiar melody in Heartland, was replaced by an unsettling silence. The swings swayed in the wind, the slides stood empty, and the once vibrant community was now a ghost town, haunted by the memory of Emily and the fear of what might come next. Just as the town was trying to come to terms with Emily's death, a new face arrived in Heartland. Alex, a quiet, brooding teenager, moved in with his aunt and uncle on the outskirts of town. His arrival was unexpected, and it stirred a mix of curiosity and apprehension among the townsfolk. They had barely begun to heal from the recent tragedy, and now this mysterious newcomer added another layer of uncertainty to their lives. He was an outsider, his past shrouded in mystery. No one knew where he came from or why he had chosen to come to Heartland. His presence was like a puzzle, each piece more enigmatic than the last. The more the townspeople tried to understand him, the more elusive he became.
I prefer to be alone. It's not that I don't like people, it's just easier this way, less complicated.
Alex was different. He was withdrawn, his eyes holding a depth that belied his age. There was a wisdom in his gaze, a knowing that seemed out of place in someone so young. It was as if he had seen more than his fair share of life's hardships, and it had left an indelible mark on his soul. He spoke little, his words measured and careful. Each sentence seemed to be weighed and considered before it left his lips. It was as if he was guarding a secret, one that he was determined to keep hidden from the world.
People always want to know more than they should. They pry and poke, trying to uncover things that are best left buried.
The townsfolk, still reeling from Emily's death, were wary of Alex. There was something about him, an aura of unease that clung to him like a shadow. They couldn't quite put their finger on it, but his presence made them uneasy. It was as if he carried a piece of the darkness that had recently enveloped their town. His presence was a constant reminder of the darkness that had descended upon Heartland. The overcast skies seemed to mirror the somber mood that had settled over the town. Every time Alex walked through the streets, it was as if a dark cloud followed him, casting a shadow over everything he passed.
It's not easy being new here. The stares, the whispers, the feeling of always being watched. It's like living under a microscope.
Despite their apprehension, they tried to welcome Alex, but he remained aloof, preferring his own company to the warmth of their hospitality. He would sit alone in crowded rooms, his presence a stark contrast to the lively conversations around him. It was as if he was there, but not really a part of the world around him. He was a lone wolf, prowling the edges of their lives, observing them with an unsettling intensity. His gaze was piercing, as if he could see right through people, uncovering their deepest secrets. It made them uncomfortable, but they couldn't look away. There was something magnetic about him, something that drew them in despite their better judgment.
Sometimes it's better to stay on the outside, to watch and learn rather than to be a part of the chaos. It's safer that way.
And so Alex remained on the periphery, a silent observer of the town's unfolding drama. He was a mystery, a riddle that no one could solve. But in the quiet moments, when the town was still and the shadows grew long, they couldn't help but wonder, who was Alex, really? And what secrets did he carry with him?
We don't know what's going on, but it's getting worse. People spoke in hushed tones, their voices laced with fear. They exchanged nervous glances, their eyes searching for answers in each other's faces. But there were no answers, only more questions, and an ever-growing sense of foreboding. It's like the town itself is haunted. Strange occurrences began to plague the town. Dogs barked at unseen figures in the night. Lights flickered erratically, objects moved inexplicably. A sense of dread permeated the air, suffocating the town's spirit. Have you noticed the strange things happening lately? The once peaceful town of Heartland was changing. An undercurrent of fear now ran through its veins. The wind seemed to carry whispers of unease, rustling through the cornfields like a whispered threat.
The darkness that had taken root in Heartland was spreading, its tendrils reaching into every corner of their lives. It was as if the town itself was holding its breath, bracing for another blow.